A 60-pound baboon just did the impossible. It stood over a full-grown lioness, victorious, as she limped away bleeding into the African darkness. This actually happened, and it rewrites everything we know about the food chain. Everyone believes lions are untouchable apex predators, that they sit at the top of nature's hierarchy, answering to nothing and no one. We've watched documentaries showing them taking down buffalo, zebras, even young elephants. A baboon fighting a lion sounds like a mouse challenging a house cat. It's suicide. It's nature's joke. Except, on one scorching afternoon in the Okavango Delta, a male baboon named Victor proved that courage and desperation can flip the script on 400 pounds of predatory muscle. Here's what you need to understand first. Baboons are prey. Always have been, always will be. Lions kill them regularly, casually, the way you might swat a mosquito. A baboon troop's entire existence revolves around avoiding lions. They post sentries, they sleep in trees. They've spent millions of years evolving strategies to run away from big cats. Running is survival. Fighting is death. But Victor wasn't given the option to run. It started when a young lioness, we'll call her Shawnee, separated from her pride during a territorial dispute. She was injured, starving, and desperate. Not the confident apex predator of nature films, but a wounded animal making increasingly reckless decisions. She'd gone 4 days without a kill. Her ribs were showing. Her movements were slower than they should have been. She spotted Victor's troop crossing an open savanna stretch during the midday heat. Normally, lions don't hunt during peak sun. Too hot, too much energy expenditure. But Shawnee wasn't thinking clearly anymore. She was running on desperation and failing instinct. The attack happened fast. Shawnee burst from the tall grass and scattered the troop in seconds. Baboons screamed and fled in every direction, a chaos of brown fur and panicked howls. Most made it to the acacia trees within 30 seconds, but Victor's infant daughter didn't. She was only 4 months old, still closey, still learning. She stumbled, fell, and Shawnee was on her in an instant, massive jaws closing around the tiny baboon's body. Now here's where it gets insane. Victor was already 15 feet up a tree. He was safe. Every survival instinct in his body was screaming at him to stay there, to accept the loss, to live another day. That's what baboons do. That's what nature animals must do to survive. Victor climbed back down. A 60-pound baboon voluntarily descended from safety and charged a lioness. Let that sink in for a moment. This goes against millions of years of evolutionary programming. It's like watching someone jump out of a lifeboat to fight a shark. The other baboons in the troop went silent. Even their alarm calls stopped. They'd never seen this before. Neither had the birds, the insects, the entire ecosystem watching this moment unfold. Victor hit Shawnee like a furry missile. He went straight for her face, something baboons never do in defensive situations. They usually try to bite haunches or tails before retreating. But Victor wasn't defending. He was attacking. His 2-inch canine teeth, designed for fighting other baboons and cracking nuts, sank into Shawnee's muzzle. She dropped his daughter immediately, roared in shock and pain. A lion's roar can be heard for 5 miles. This one carried pure surprise. But here's the thing about injured, starving predators. They're unpredictable. And Shawnee had just been humiliated by something she considered food. She spun with terrifying speed, claws extended, going for a killing blow that should have ended Victor in seconds. Should have. Victor did something that researchers who later studied this incident still can't fully explain. He used tactics, actual strategic thinking in the middle of combat. Instead of trying to overpower Shawnee, which would be impossible, he targeted her injuries. She had a gash on her left shoulder from the earlier territorial fight. Victor went for it repeatedly, biting, tearing, making the wound worse. Shawnee screamed, not a roar, a scream of genuine pain. They fought for 3 minutes. In nature, that's an eternity. Most predator-prey interactions last seconds. But this was no longer predator and prey. This was 2 desperate animals fighting for something more important than food or survival. For Shawnee, it was pride and dominance. For Victor, it was his child's life. The turning point came when Victor managed to sink his teeth into Shawnee's ear and tear. Lions use their ears for communication, for temperature regulation, for spatial awareness. The pain and blood confused her. She shook her head violently, trying to dislodge him, but Victor held on with the grip strength that lets baboons hang from branches for hours. When he finally let go, Shawnee stumbled backward. Blood poured from her muzzle, her shoulder, her torn ear. She looked at Victor, this impossible creature that had just done the unthinkable, and something shifted in her eyes. She turned and walked away. Not ran, walked. A slow, defeated retreat that left the entire savannah in shocked silence. Victor stood there, chest heaving, blood matting his fur, his infant daughter crying but alive at his feet. He'd just won a fight he had no biological right to win. He'd stared down a lion and made it blink first. The researchers who later documented this incident through camera trap footage later that week couldn't believe what they were seeing. They brought in experts, ran it past wildlife biologists who'd spent decades studying predator-prey dynamics. Everyone agreed on one thing: this shouldn't have happened. But it did, because sometimes the rules we think are written in stone are actually written in sand. Because maternal and paternal instinct can override millions of years of evolutionary fear. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the choice to act despite it. Shawnee eventually recovered and rejoined her pride. Victor's daughter grew up to have offspring of her own. And somewhere in the African wilderness, their story echoes as a reminder that nature is far wilder, far braver, and far more unpredictable than any script we try to write for it. If this story left you speechless, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true tales from the wild that prove nature never stops surprising us.